Hi, folks, and welcome to our third edition of the Winners in the Cloud Ask Me Anything event, where you get the chance to ask questions live to the Windows 365 engineering team, as well as the people that are working in the field right now, because we have some special guests in the Ask Me Anything event today. So I'm your host, Christian Brinkhoff, one of the feature PMs of the Windows 365 engineering team. And I'm joined by all kinds of Windows 365 experts, as well as colleagues in the Windows 365 PM team. So please put your questions in the chat right now, so we are ready to answer them for you. So before we do that, and while you're thinking about some very difficult questions for us because we like it, I would like to introduce the group here to you. So first, Donna, can you share who you are and what your role is to the audience here?
Sure, I'm Donna Ryan. I am a senior PM on our Windows 365 CAT team. So I'm there to help our customers solve problems, help their rollout, and guide and advise the feature PMs on what customers really want to see in the product.
Awesome. Great to have you. Well-known name in the MVP as well, endpoint scene. So great to have you here. So if you always wanted to ask something about 3D printers, I just learned Donna is your person here. Juan, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Christian. Pleased to meet you all. My name is Juan Cifuentes, and I'm a senior cloud endpoint technical specialist covering the HLS region. For those who don't know what HLS means, health, life, and science. Yeah, happy to be here. I'm fully focused on Windows 365. There's a whole blog series that I'm developing for Windows 365, solely focused on HLS, and I'll be sharing that with you guys later on this evening.
Yeah, thanks, Juan, and we will touch base on that in just a bit. So if you are active in the healthcare scene and have some questions related to that, put them in the Q&A as well here down below. Michael, can you introduce yourself as well and what your role is?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mike Rimberly. I'm a principal PM on the Windows 365 product team. My focus is around partner engagement and enablement. So working with partners and all of the things that we have available to them.
And you work a lot with Stephen as well. So that's a great segue into Stephen. Can you explain what you do?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephen DeQuincy. I'm a senior PM in our customer experience engineering team. I work alongside Mike with partners, really focused on enabling the partners technically, but also gathering some of that partner feedback. So listening to, hear what partners are hearing from their customers and making sure that Christian and the rest of the feature team are, taking that feedback on board when we continue to develop the product.
Yeah, thanks for those introductions. And as you can see, we have a variety of people here. So from implementation to feedback to a feature for partners or just for the product and customers itself, you can all ask them here directly live, and we are here to answer them. Before we jump into some questions, we received some pre-questions before the AMA started. And one of those questions were around, what are the design options for Windows 365? What are the options in terms of Azure Active Directory? What is the topology and things like that? And I think, Juan, you can perhaps give a first intro to that. Can you explain the audience a little bit what you see in the field and what kind of the best practices are there from deploying Windows 365 from an architecture perspective?
Most definitely, Christian. Yes. So Windows 365 is very scalable. You have multiple options to integrate it into your environment. So whether you're fully cloud or on-prem or private cloud as well, you have the ability to deploy this in 3 different designs. One being fully hosted in the Microsoft environment, which is traditionally the recommended approach to get started with Cloud PC. If you're not familiar with it, that would be the best way to go, because that'll spin up the Cloud PCs in 15 minutes. It's as simple as assigning a license, so in a provisioning policy to your users. Outside of that, you have 2 additional options where you can bring your own network or integrate your network through with the Cloud PC environment. So the second option will be an Azure AD join with an existing VNet in your Azure network. As far as options on how would you deliver that. We will recommend that you have a dedicated VNet, so you can use that traditional hub-to-spoke topology into your production VNets. And last one is more targeted to our dark to cloud customers that are not necessarily ready to move to the cloud, and they want to use the same current approach that they do today through their SCCM solution, so they can extend their PC management workloads through co-management. So basically using a hybrid domain joined cloud PC. There's a lot more components that are involved in that design, but it's one that it actually very much fits for a lot of our customers.
That's great, and thanks for sharing that. One follow-up question to that is perhaps if customers go down the route of using a hosted network, like completely IGD joined with a network hosted as well in the Windows 365 service, can they then still use a like backend VPN service or connect to the backend services, or is that not possible? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Most definitely. I think that's actually one of those things that becomes very often. But yes, to your question, yes, it is possible. And you can actually deploy any VPN, third-party VPN solution into that design, giving your users access to applications and resources to make it productive as well. There's obviously some other options where you can as well remote stream the app, or use things like Zscaler to app proxy the application, or Azure App Proxy. There's many ways to integrate those applications that are running on-prem with our line of business, and make it available in a Microsoft hosted environment.
Yeah, what do you see mostly in the field, like Zscaler or Palo Alto as VPN solution? Is that being used a lot? And if that's used, are there any tips and tricks to configure that? And maybe somebody else on the team here can chime in as well. But
well, what I see actually from customers that are trying to leverage that design is specifically to because they don't want those users that are most likely contractors or M&As specifically that don't want to give them access to on-premise applications, and possibly use start initially with the VPN client to give them access to those. But the main goal will be to use something cloud-based like Zscaler or Netscope as well. That's another one that I've seen. The other options are obviously use like an app proxy to give them access to promote those and publish those applications to the tenant, making it available to the user without establishing a VPN. But I do see that some are trying to steer away from the VPN in that design. Global Protect is definitely one of them. For Palo Alto, it works very well. I've seen also Cisco AnyConnect as well. They're deploying on the cloud PCs.
And if I can build on that for just a little bit, what we also end up finding too is with folks that are leveraging the VPN, if they're going with a full tunnel type of deployment, that does run a possibility of doing an impact on performance, because there are lots of resources in Azure that the cloud PC needs to talk to from the backend services, and by having the packets go from the cloud back on premises back up to the cloud, it increases the latency, which can cause performance degradation on the cloud PC. So highly encourage split tunneling if at all possible when going down the VPN connectivity route.
Yeah, and always make sure to whitelist the URLs that connect to the cloud services we use, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. URLs,
That's
IP addresses.
Yeah, correct. Because we are a SaaS solution, and therefore you need to make sure that the connectivity is fine. And the requirements are very low, but one of the hard requirements is, of course, that it can reach those URLs. So that's all documented well. And if you have a proxy that sits in between, make sure that the proxy accepts it to not block the connection to MEM as well as Windows 365, AVD services we use and such. So one of the questions here that comes in is, can I use a 3D printer in my Windows 365 cloud PC? No, that's not a real question. But
you could possibly. There's some ways to do that.
I bet you have been preparing a demo or something at one of the events you're presenting.
I haven't, but that does sound like kind of a fun little side project.
Well, if you're coming back at an AMA soon, I will ask the question again and see if it's possible. But just on a serious note, can you share, Donna, a little bit on how you can use Teams in a Windows 365 Cloud PC environment, how it works out of the box, and how you can ensure sort of that Teams always keeps up to date and works best for the end users?
Absolutely. So if you're provisioning your Cloud PC with the gallery image, we have Teams included. It's using the machine-wide installer, and what's very important for a good end user experience is including the WebRTC service. Now, as a part of our gallery image, we're baking that in natively. So, getting that initially installed, happens out of the box. If you're using a custom image, you're just getting a plain Windows image essentially. So that is going to be definitely an image concern to have that installed. Now, one of the problems that exists today with the WebRTC service is it doesn't auto update, and it's not going to get updated through your monthly patching cycle. And it is crucial to keep that component up to date because as we build out bug fixes and additional enhancements to it, that's only going to make Teams improve. So if you were to go ahead and just do an install of the next version, the big word of caution is to be aware that when you install that application, it will forcibly close Teams. So it's definitely not something that you want to just push out midday, because you're going to have a lot of cranky people that were kicked off of meetings. I did end up writing a script pair solution intended to be used with proactive remediation that does a lot of dynamic detections, newest version available, downloads whatever's newest, so we don't have to go and build an application through MEM. But most importantly, the actual remediation script monitors the end user's state and will not take effect until the user is either is in a disconnected or an inactive state. That script pair can be found on our team, our official Windows 365 GitHub repo. I can provide the link to that. There's plenty of instructions on how to use it. If you're not using proactive remediation, the remediation script can be used in a standalone that built in some parameters to give admins control if they need to either do it directly. There it is. Thank you. But yeah, that WebRTC service, I've definitely seen some customers have issues where they were complaining adamantly that Teams performance was horrible, and they were using a custom image and went and looked and it wasn't installed. So I went and installed that, and Teams started working much better.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, like it really represents as well what Windows 365 is as a service. Your image is from the get-go ready to use Teams in an optimized manner, and we will provide the tool set to make sure that happens consistently at the best performance possible. And one thing I see as well as a question coming in the chat right now is, hey, what's the roadmap for Teams? And that's something that is interesting as a question, because not probably everybody knows that, but Teams on a virtualized environment runs a little bit different and as on a physical PC. So there are some gaps in terms of what is available on a physical PC for Teams than in a cloud PC. However, we have been narrowing the gap of those features to almost zero over the last 9 months. So there are new features coming up, like background blur for the virtualized version of Teams, as well as multi-window functionality. Call Me as a feature if you are joining from your phone and you go back into your cloud PC, that you can transfer that call to your cloud PC session as well. Same for live captions, give or take control, and as well support for macOS as an optimized AV redirection option for the best experience. So that are all features that are shipping soon. I cannot say when, but it's very soon. So you will see that probably popping up in the next couple of weeks. So before we jump into the next topic, let's see if there are some questions coming in, and please put them into the chat below, or I think directly into YouTube could be possible as well. So we will track that and answer them here. So don't be shy and just put them in. So before I jump into the more topic kind of change question here, Is there anything which we would like to share in terms of what is possible with customizations to the image? You already touched base on that, Donna, that you can create custom images. Does that mean that you can go just down the road of sysprepping an image and then use your existing images that you already prepared on premises? Or can you share a little bit more about that, or Juan or Stephen, maybe perhaps?
I can jump in. So we originally saw lots of customers using custom images for really one of two reasons. Either they have one on premises and it's the easiest way for them to think they can migrate to Windows 365. Our best practice recommendation is really to use the gallery images. Donna's already mentioned we bake in things like the WebRTC, Teams optimizations into those gallery images. We apply a few Windows 365 optimizations into them as well. And really, if the customer is thinking about that complete modern management story, it makes much more sense and is far simpler to take a gallery image and then use MEM, Microsoft Endpoint Manager, to deploy your device configuration and deploy your applications. But what we did see was that customers were also deploying custom images for really one other reason, which was to customize the locale, so the region that they were deploying to. So, I had partners working with customers in various European countries where English US wasn't the configuration they wanted on those PCs, and our gallery images deployed by English US. But we made an update in our February release of Windows 365. So now in a provisioning policy, you can choose our gallery image and then also specify the region and locale that you want that image to be customized to. So really just removing another barrier to need to do a custom image. Having said all of that, if you do want to do a custom image, we do support it. Essentially, you can deploy a PC into Azure or even Hyper-V on your PC. We have got some documented guidance, but essentially deploy whatever customization you want, or install any applications. Maybe they're large apps that just don't, you don't want to use MEM to deploy for whatever reason, and then sysprep the image. Upload the image into a storage account in your Azure subscription. As long as your Cloud PC service has access to that Azure subscription and that storage account, you can then import that custom image into Windows 365. When you do that import, we run a few checks on it to make sure that it's a good image to be used for Windows 365. So we check it's on a supported version of Windows. We make sure that you haven't deployed Windows 10 or 11 multi-session, because Windows 365 is a single user persistent solution, as well as a couple of other things. And then once all those checks are passed and valid, you can then edit or create a provisioning policy that uses that custom image.
Yeah, that's great. And you need to have a Gen 2 image as well, right?
Yeah. We'll paste the link, but we've got documented the requirements you need for using a custom image that you upload into Windows 365. I think it's Gen 2, single session, supported version of Windows. That's about an enterprise edition.
Yeah, no, that's great. And just for the sake of where a customer is today and where they want to be, you called out the benefits that we have gallery images. That is a better way to segmentate your applications on top. But it's great that we offer as well support for Azure Managed Images, the shared image gallery. So if you come from a virtualized solution or virtualization solution on Azure and you are having custom images and you did a big investment on that, you can just drag and drop them inside Windows 365 as well, if they align, of course, on some of those requirements that you just called out. So I see another question coming in here. Are there any plans to enhance the remote help functionality that is just announced during the Windows commercial event 3 weeks ago already for Windows 365 Cloud PC? Is there anybody that wants to chime in here? Otherwise, I can take it myself. So the remote help feature is sort of an enhancement on Quick Assist, which you probably all know, which is part of Windows 10 and Windows 11 as well. If you type in Quick Assist in your taskbar, you will see Quick Assist, and then you log on with your Azure AD credentials, and then you get a code, and you give the code to the person in the cloud PC, and then you can do sort of troubleshooting remote help activity. And there's an improved version on top of that that can do way more controls, like take over your controls or push things back and forth and have more delegated access to that as well on different security settings. And the question is that supported already for Windows 365? The answer is not yet, but we are working on getting that support done as well. So once we have that ready, that will be shown in the aka.ms/W365 roadmap page as well. So stay tuned for more news on that side. Let's switch gears a little bit. And I know we have two people here that are very passionate about partners and what partners can fulfill and have as opportunity for Windows 365 as well. So Michael, can you share a little bit on the resources we just published in the partner portal and what the benefit is for partners for Windows 365 in general?
Yeah. So on February 22nd, we went live with our partner portal. You can access that at aka.ms/W365 partner portal. So, but on that portal, there's a ton of resources specifically meant for partners, and we just localized that. So in 8 different languages. So now we have resources available worldwide that you can use to help really build your practice. So we've got a kind of a 4-step process. There's a variety of collateral in there that should help you, everything from overview decks to email templates to pitch decks, all of these things that'll really help you get up to speed. The other thing that we added to that portal is we provided training earlier this month. And so with both sales and technical training, we recorded those sessions. So those are live and available to watch back. And those links are up there on that portal as well. The second announcement that we made during the at that time was that we were going to support trials through our new commerce experience. Now, as a CSP partner, you can go order a proof of concept trial license for your customers to use. And so that was available starting on March 9th. Currently, we are offering trials on the business edition. We're currently working to also add trials on the enterprise edition. So within the next month or so, you should also be able to essentially purchase a no-cost trial license for your customers in both Windows 365 Business Edition and Enterprise Edition.
Yeah. I was just going to add, Mike, as well. We've got some new partner training coming out in June as well. The registration site should be live in the next week or so, and that's going to be spread over 2 days, and I think about 8 hours worth of content that you'll see many of the faces here presenting at again as well. So some more in-depth partner training available in June.
And that's awesome, and great to hear that there are trial licenses for partners available too, which they can just use, kick the tires, see if it works fine, and just explore the opportunities they have. Because I don't know if you can share a little bit about that, Michael, but I think there for partners are huge opportunities because the service is more simpler and the ramp up phase is lower, right? So they can do more implementations at the same time to do a traditional VDI environment or something else. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly right. So obviously with Windows 365, Microsoft is managing that backend environment. So that makes it no VDI skill sets required on your part to be able to, manage a Windows 365 deployment. So it makes it very simple for you to do. And at the same time, there's still a ton of partner opportunity, so you've got that environment set up that you still need to do, get their apps ready, get their network ready. Donna and Juan were talking about, the VNet connection, all depending on their environment, making sure that they're ready to go. You still have the devices that you need to get ready. So they're going to need to connect from some device, whether it's a laptop, a thin client, whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of device enablement that you'll need to do. And then, you've got, obviously the deployment and going through these proof of concepts. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then all of the wraparound services that you're used to providing for all the physical devices that you're managing. Those are the same services, those wraparound services, managed services that you currently provide for those physical devices, you can apply those exactly in the same manner for your virtual devices. And and again, now that we're all integrated into Intune, that gives you the opportunity from one portal to manage the entire state, both physical and virtual.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And can you share a little bit? There's a question coming in as well, like what is the opportunity for the partner or for enterprise, and what is for business? Like, what are the differences there? Can you share a little bit more about that, like from a partner perspective?
Yeah, so from a partner perspective, we came out with 2 versions. So let me just give you a high level kind of overview of what the kind of a compare and contrast. So the business edition, we really targeted to that what we're calling BSB, which is the very small business. It's that 1 to 25 users. Maybe they don't have an IT department. Maybe they don't even have IT management tool sets. And so what we've done is we've created a version of Windows 365 with no prerequisites, no license requirements. We make it super simple to deploy. You can buy, deploy, and manage from a Microsoft portal. And with enterprise, and that's up to 300 users. And so that's really targeted at those small businesses. And then the enterprise edition is really, again, built into MEM in Intune. And so for those customers that you've already done the transition and transform to MEM, now you can manage all of those devices of customers of any size. And so what we're seeing from partners is that they're able to deploy some of, like with the business edition, for those very small businesses, they're able to deploy them very quickly. We've added a bunch of new admin capabilities to the business edition. So now as a partner, as an admin, you can go in and do things like rename, reset, restart. You can set the version or the OS version type, whether it's Windows 10, Windows 11. You can re-provision it. You can set the local user or the user as a local admin or just a standard user, depending on what their needs are. And so we continue to build more and more admin capabilities into the business edition so that if you've got smaller customers, you have a solution for them that you can easily deploy. And then, of course, with Windows 365 Enterprise, if you're already managing them through Intune, we make it super simple to deploy out, Windows 365 on a variety of different sizes, to meet your customer's needs. And of course, we allow you to do a lot of the same things that you would do with physical devices, and with Windows 365, you can resize. Again, you can do all of the admin capabilities like, restart, reset. And also, we've relegated a lot of those simple activities so that the actual user can do some of those things so that you can, save your time for some of the more important troubleshooting activities that you normally do for your customers.
And that's great insights. Thanks for sharing that. I think it's really helpful for the audience to sort of phrase the different products into buckets. One question I had, like just for the last 15 minutes, how many balls do you have behind your desk there?
Yeah, I was a coach for a long time, and I used to, in fact, even in high school, when my kids were playing baseball in high school, I used to throw batting practice because I was a pitcher when I was their age, and so I had a ton of baseballs. But yeah, that flag is made of 320 baseballs, so it is super heavy. But yeah, it was a fun project. Me and my 2 boys created it, and yeah, it's over 150 pounds.
Yeah, it's always great to see that COVID does positive things with your home office as well. And you get all kinds of creativity. I see Donna has her 3D printer back. So yeah, that's great to see. And Juan has not so visible anymore, but his fitness room behind him. So
right there.
Great to see that work-life balance lifestyle representing here in this Ask Me Anything event. One other question that comes up here is, are there any projections or timelines shared for the Windows 365 app, the new client that we presented during the Windows commercial event? So I can take that one myself. So the Windows 365 app switch, boot, and offline mode have been presented three weeks ago during the Windows commercial event. So Panos and Satya did the announcement of that, which has been pretty impactful and amazing to see. So it really resonated well across companies, partners, as well as in the company to see, hey, Windows can go to the cloud and we can bring Windows integration into Windows. And one of those key features has been the Windows 365 app, which is the kind of equivalent on the remote desktop client today. However, now fully embracing the Windows 365 brand, as well as self-service capabilities like reset, rename, reboot, restore, all those capabilities you're familiar with the web portal today. Those will come into that app. And the other great thing of that app is that app will come into Windows 11, meaning that you just install Windows 11 on your endpoint and then you have the app directly there. So no need to go to the store or install an MSI, all with single sign-on experience if you have, of course, a cloud PC assigned to you. So now back to the question. What is the timeline of that app? So of course, I cannot say in a month or so that app will be there. The only thing I can say is that we are actively working on it right now, and we are soon shipping it internally as an internal beta. So you can imagine that we are pretty far ahead of the development, and it will not take a couple of years to get that app ready for customers. So as soon as that date is more into a public preview date stage, we will share it on our public facing roadmap, and then we will reach out before that to customers for a private preview to attend and participate as well. So and don't be shy, put more questions in. I see lots of questions already coming in, but a little bit more variety in terms of topics would be great too. So we give Juan and Steven a little bit of a hard time as well on the partner and healthcare side of the house. So let's switch to another quick question here, and this is maybe one for Donna. Will Endpoint Manager Windows 365 support custom enrollment status page profiles in Microsoft Endpoint Manager?
It will, yes. That's currently under development. We know that, as of today, only the default ESP is, works. It's obvious limitation. We're aware of it, and we are doing our due diligence to bring ESP equality to Windows 365. Again, no promise on a release date, but it is under active development.
Yeah, awesome. So let's see if we can switch to Juan's topic here about healthcare and like the opportunities in the healthcare space as well. Can you share a little bit more about the blog post series that you present on Tech Community and how you help customers with that as well, and what are the kind of topics they can learn of?
Sure, definitely. Actually, I'd like to build up on one specifically that you shared in reference to the Windows 365 app. Actually, I didn't mean to cut you off while you were speaking, but one that I'm actually very, very curious about is the boot to cloud experience, right? I know that it's coming. And in the HLS region, it's something that's actually very common to see. The unified experience where you make it seems like one between the endpoint and the cloud PC for the user, so they don't have to log into multiple locations. It's just one. So, I mean, today, how we do it, obviously, multiple clients, they can either use a kiosk profile or a shared PC where they can sort of bake this solution through MEM or through SCCM and using an autopilot, self-deployed or user-driven, whichever the case may be, to try to align that experience for loading directly to the cloud PC. But I am very curious to see that as soon as it becomes available for the cloud, boot to cloud. But from the HLS region, I guess one of the business use cases that we see a lot of growth for Windows 365 is the contractors and vendors space and the M&A activities. Those are pretty big. It happens very frequently. Acquisitions, they come and go within the companies, and it's something that is being hugely impactful by Windows 365 because the ability to make productive a user on day one as they join the organization, steering away from that traditional ship a laptop to the user, take all the apps and the applications, and have a corporate device for the user is just a benefit, for them to be able to for them to use a BYOPC. So that's one big use case that is growing very heavily for the HLS space.
So follow-up question there, like what is the kind of implementation time for a healthcare organization, how they implement Windows 365 compared to like previous technology they use, like legacy on-prem VDI technology replacing for Windows 365? Can you share a little bit of insights, what you see in the field in terms of ramp-up time, like in difference between a SaaS solution and just an on-prem solution, or perhaps IaaS on top of cloud or something like that?
Most definitely. In the healthcare industry, it's actually it's very common to see VDI, right? That's actually most of the companies that use different vendors like Citrix, Horizon View, even AVD as well. Most of them, they run the traditional on-prem VDI, which they fully host the overall experience of that is being provided for the users, right? Anything from latency, the hardware, the software, the identity, the user, the applications that are being streamed, the restrictions, everything completely is being hosted and owned by the customer, right? They need to always run analysis on the host pools, on the clusters, make sure that they're accountable for the performance that is being delivered to the user. Whether it's a 2 CPU, a 4 CPU, scalability, depending on where they need to grow or decrease that performance that is given to the user. With Windows 365, we're taking a different approach for them, right? It's the ability for them to be able to deliver experience in a simple way. So simplicity is one of those key things that Windows 365 provides, right? The foundation of the Windows 365 takes just about an hour to build, and deliver a cloud PC is just about under 15 minutes to create one. So for them to be able to scale up as needed for 500, 1,000 users, just by dropping it into a group that is associated with a provisioning policy is tremendous. Because I mean, not to say that they don't need any VDI experience. A traditional endpoint manager can manage Windows 365 environment today. So it is I think I want to say that it's a huge improvement for them.
Yeah, that's great, and that really resonates as well. What we see in the community, on tech community, what's coming back in the forums, and yeah, that's just great to see as an acknowledgement as well in your specific vertical. One other question that just comes in, like, it's more related to performance. So how should enterprises / customers look at the performance per different SKU? Like, we have different licenses, and there's documentation which app we recommend to use on which license. But Ru, that has a lot of field experience here, can chime in and share a little bit of what you see as a good fit for customers. What is the average license being used, and yeah, what's the kind of vertical is that is specifically per license, or is it just in general across all verticals what is being used in terms of the licenses? Stephen, can you chime in here, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. The question is, how does the 2-core 8 GB performance machine fit? And that is, I think, typically across customers that our partners are working with, the most popular license. It's the one that aligns to probably the kind of hardware footprint that most end users are using. It's the hardware footprint that my cloud PC is as well, 2-core 8 GB. I haven't been able to convince Christian to give me anything more powerful. And actually, performance is great for a general everyday information worker, email open, using Teams and everything else. But one of the real benefits of Windows 365 is actually that you can start with a user on that license, and then actually we have, as part of the tool, endpoint analytics, that as an IT pro and an IT admin, you can use endpoint analytics to actually gain real insight into how is that device performing, what's using up the CPU, what's using up the RAM. And if you do see devices that actually are under-specified for a particular user's workload, then it's possible to add a new license for a different SKU and, as a completely non-destructive action, resize that Cloud PC up to a higher performance SKU. So I think, the 2-core 8 gig is a good starting point for most users, but actually the flexibility is there that if you do need more performance and you can make that decision with data, then you can resize.
Yeah, that's great, and thanks for sharing that feedback or insights coming from your experiences too. One other question is are there any tips or documentation to use for antivirus or security related improvements using third-party security tools, or when using third-party security tools? Can you share, Stephen or Donna, a little bit more? Like, what do you see in the field that customers use the most to secure their Cloud PC environment, and what are the recommendations we have there?
Donna? I think from partners, we're typically seeing, but our partners are largely working across Microsoft's products. So we're seeing Microsoft Defender for endpoints being delivered as a complete solution. The power of our suite is the power of the suite. So, gaining that full integration. As for other third-party AV solutions, Donna, do you see many out there?
Well, I'm sure that some folks are, the customers that I've been working with are really just sticking with the Microsoft stack. They're like really going in, whole hog into the Azure suite and what MEM can bring and what Azure can bring, instead of trying to break it out via, different vendors.
I can add up on that as well, from an experience on the HLS space, that some of them, they use Symantec and Kaspersky, but they actually, the way that they POC in this experience is that they try to load that into the CPC, and they see that they're getting more value out of their Windows Defender. So they usually end up steering away from their third-party vendor, but at least it gives them the option to validate the use case.
I learned as well that Defender is now available in M365 E3, right? Can you share a little bit more about that and what the differences is between E5, Juan?
Yeah, so basically the Windows Defender is now, it has the option, obviously, to integrate with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So the ability to automate the process whenever there's a malware detected or anything like that. We don't need to manually trigger a motion to capture that or to prevent from that expanding. The integration is out of the box between Defender, MDE, and Windows Defender. But for third-party AVs like Sophos, Symantec, and any others, it still is going to work, but there's not going to be an automatic process. You have to manually trigger that motion.
Yeah, thanks. And Defender is available from a subset of features in the M365 E3 license right now. I'm not completely familiar with how many features, but it's definitely an opener in the kind of capabilities you can use to secure your Cloud PC environment. And then, of course, the E5 brings you the full suite with everything related to threat management, protection, and as well the holistic view of doing management as well as security from one single pane of glass experience, as Juan just explained. So another question here that comes in: does Windows 365 support RDP shortpad for public-facing networks? Who wants to chime in here? Is Stephen? Can you chime in here?
Yeah, correct.
A really cool feature, though.
If I'm wrong, yeah. So we're currently testing it internally on our internal environment. But eventually, yes, when it's on our roadmap, Windows 365 will support RDP short path for public networks. I don't have the timelines, but it's coming. Unless you know any more, Christian.
I like to add just a bit one thing on that, actually, because I know that it's not supported technically, but it is actually works. We've been testing that internally on the CTS team. A few of us, we've been testing, and it's beautiful. The experience that you can see it and validate that it actually supports a UDP when you're connected on an RDP connection. So it's just more fluent. There are weights that you can deliver that. Obviously, it's just you can push it out through a PowerShell key. through Intune directly into all your cloud PCs. Or you can manually add it, obviously, as well. But there's ways. I'm sure that Christian, probably at some point that's going to become available as part of the image. But yes, it does work.
Yeah, it will, of course. So we are testing it internally. That's mostly how releases works within Microsoft. So we test first ourselves, then it goes private, public preview, and then it ultimately GA as well. And as Juan and Steven already shared, we are already using it, and it works great. It has been working great. It downgrades sort of the latency. If you have like 30 milliseconds normally a round trip time, you go to 11. So we have been seeing huge jumps of 50% lower or more even. And that can increase the video experience and everything just in general if you use a cloud PC on a daily basis. And then on top of that, if we talk about more latency sensitive workloads, there's a question coming in, hey, what about GPU SKUs? We have AutoCAD and all kinds of other use cases that require GPUs. And I can chime in here real quick. So we are actively working on getting GPU SKUs on licenses ready in our product. However, there are some capacity-related issues per region that we need to solve in order to get it ready into the product. So that's the reason why it's not in there today. But we are working hard to get that fixed. And when that it will be available, will be shown in the same ak.ms/W365 roadmap page. But keep that feedback coming in. So thanks for that, and I will report it. So we will make sure that will get the proper prioritization into our products moving forward. So let me see if there's another question related to that. Now, there's a question here coming from Nigel. Will boot to Cloud PC be supported as a kiosk-style CSP model as a policy to configure in Microsoft Endpoint Manager? So I can chime in here and answer that question as well. So boot to Cloud PC, as Juan already explained, is a direct boot into a Cloud PC from a local operating system that is more lightweight, purposely built, and built for more device-based orientated devices, meaning you have a PC sitting on a physical desk and multiple users log on or shift on like night or day shifts in a healthcare organization or somewhere else to that same PC, and then they log straight into their Cloud PC, and that holds the session that they had when they worked from home before going into the office. And the question here is, does that become available as a CSP or configuration model flow in Microsoft Endpoint Manager? And the answer to the question is yes. It will become available as CSP, but more in the way of we will create separate CSPs for different configuration items, but there will be a wizard, a guided flow in Microsoft Endpoint Manager that you can use to configure via from Autopilot OB to the CSP configuration flow, as well as security baselines, as well as redirection settings, all into one wizard. Will come into Microsoft Endpoint Manager that will help configuring the boot to Cloud PC, the boot Windows 365 boot experience. So definitely with the enterprise capabilities in mind, and we are currently exploring what we do for the Windows 365 business product as well to achieve that same workflow.
I'd like to add actually one more thing on that, which you mentioned, Christian, actually, not only to mention that depending on the use case, right? The one that you explained, I think, is your traditional static terminals, or PCs that don't move around. But then you have also the dynamic ones or we call it in the HLS space, PC on wheels, that they're moving between locations, multiple users access it. But you're also going to have your personalized experience for in our case, it's like doctors, clinicians, as they move between hospitals, but always using the same device. That cloud to boot to cloud experience will be very beneficial for them.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Juan. So one of the questions that comes in here as well is, so how is it best to deliver a seamless, like low latency experience across multiple regions? I think, Juan, is that a question you feel comfortable answering? Like, what can customers do to improve the latency? Of course, we chatted about the short pad feature, but what can customers do in general in terms of configuring provisioning policies and such?
Sure, definitely. And I'm sure that everybody else can collaborate on this because we're all very aware that, one of the key things that do deliver Windows ecosystems is the latency that is being given to the user depending on the location. So, I mean, we have clients that they might want to have users, developers, contractors, or just employees coming overseas from different countries. When you have a hosted VDI environment, you need to account for the latency that user is going to be accessing the cloud PC, right? So it definitely is going to be a high latency. If you want to provide a low latency experience, we have the option to go with Microsoft hosted network, where this cloud PC is positioned in the closest region, closest to the location of the user, right? We have multiple regions available where that you can pick and choose just from that provisioning policy. It's very simple. Build out your provisioning policy, assign it to a group, and that's where the user is assigned to, and the user will have a very low latency experience. All right, that's the way that we accomplish that today.
Yeah, I would just add that if you are using a customer hosted network, so whether that's in a hybrid Azure AD join or an Azure AD join scenario, by default, when you add that Azure network into the Windows 365 devices blade, we will provision a cloud PC into the same location as specified in the VNet that you've added into MEM. But if you do therefore have users that you have in different locations, you could, for example, configure some Azure VNet peering so that you can create VNets in different geographies, then again add those VNets into MEM and then create a provisioning policy based on those for your customer hosted network scenarios as well. And then that works the same as Juan says, we'll provision the cloud PC in the relevant location to the VNet.
Yeah, thanks. And another question here related to the SKUs that we have, as well as a little bit of performance related. Maybe that's one is for you as well, Stephen. Like, what are we doing for developers as part of Windows 365? Are there any specific capabilities available inside a cloud PC to use developer tools, and which license could be used for that?
So we have coming soon the ability for developers typically want to do things like run code on their cloud PC in an isolated environment, so a sandbox environment, but still inside their cloud PC. So essentially, be that Hyper-V or some other virtualized environment on their cloud PC. Initially, we didn't support running virtualization on virtualizations, but we've got coming soon, and please chime in on the SKUs that this is going to be available on initially, Christian, but we'll have coming soon the ability for nested virtualization. So for those developers that need to be able to run sandbox environments on their cloud PC, it will be supported on particular SKUs, which are, Christian, remind me.
Yeah, that's the 8-core license right now. So on the 8-core license, you can use it.
Yeah, so typically the high-end SKU that a developer would be using anyway. So
yeah, that's correct. And we are working on making it available on the 4-core license as well. But that's not ready today. But on the 8-core license, you have enough power to do Hyper-V, because Hyper-V is essentially running another VM on your own cloud PC. So it requires at least double the amount of cores. If you want to use 4 cores on your cloud PC and you want to use a VM on top of that with the same kind of performance, then at least you need to kind of like equivalent in terms of cores there as well to make sure that the performance is great. So we think the 8-core would be the best fit for organizations for nested virtualization specific scenarios like Hyper-V or other nested virtualization specific features. But of course, we want to see if we can go lower, that we support it as well. So that's in the works as well. So one of the other questions that comes in here is, what's the possibility for an IT admin to block end users from restoring a cloud PC? Like the point-in-time restore feature has been announced and is available right now, but are there any capabilities to disable that or enable that for end users or not, and can it be done in the Microsoft Endpoint Manager portal as well for an IT admin? Donna, can you answer that question?
Yep, under the user settings in the MEM portal, there's a checkbox right there. It says allow users to restore their cloud PC. If you don't want users touching it, don't check it. You can also, with those policies, get granular, so you can go ahead and apply those to a subset of users that you may want to grant that level of permission to. Admins can always go in and trigger that themselves. So, depending on if you trust your end users with that level of power, you can provision it, but you don't have to. That control is completely up to the admin.
Yeah, and that really represents as well where the service is. Like, really, we want to make the end user able to do kind of things that normally maybe 5 or 10 years, or maybe perhaps for some organizations today, end users were calling the IT service desk, hey, can you do this for me? And then the IT service desk was like, hey, this is so easy. This is kind of a repeated thing that I do every day, right? And with that mindset, we created a lot of features that we think, hey, an IT service desk can do it, but perhaps the end user as well. And point-in-time restore is one of them. And we make it available, but we also allow an IT admin to disable it. So we are sort of meeting in the middle where an IT admin wants to allow it or not. And restore is one of them. And more of those features like a resize, for example, will come as well for an end user in the future. So that's great to have that capability. And another great thing is that a restore feature is not costing any additional license costs, right? Like it's just baked into the service. So that's a great thing about a SaaS service as well, is that if we ship something in the product, 9 out of the 10 like features come just into the SaaS service itself. So no additional investments are needed or something like that for that. So I see we have 4 minutes left. Let's do just one more question. So I see a question coming in, which is an interesting one, and I'm passionate about it, but I will give somebody else the floor here. Is Cloud PC the same as VDI? So Stephen, do you want to take it first, and then somebody else can follow up on that?
Yes, yeah, we should all give our elevator pitch on this. No, it's not. I know it's very common that customers instantly think virtualized, therefore it's VDI, but we really do think about Cloud PC as just actually the user's PC, but running in the cloud, and the value we have in terms of the simplistic, the admin's experience for managing it easily with additional controls that just don't exist in the VDI world, or at least they don't exist without a lot of additional skill and knowledge, are just there. And from an end user experience, we're not giving users standard non-persistent experiences that typically exist in virtualized environments. You are giving them their own persistent, always available, resumes exactly where they left it experience. So it's a very different admin and a very different user experience from traditional VDI.
Yeah, somebody else.
Yeah, it's definitely not. When you're looking at VDI, as the admin of that, there's so many components that you're responsible with, even with a cloud deployment. You've got user profile disks in the cloud. Your session host is powered on. You're paying you're paying for the minute by that. Managing those, controlling those, scaling up, scaling down. There's a lot that goes into it, and if you've got those skills, awesome. I mean, they're valuable, but that's really the value prop with Windows 365 is you don't have to manage all of those components, all that intricacy, the policies, all that communication, the permissions, all the backend configurations. You apply the license, the user has a machine. It's just easy as that. My previous role before I was at Microsoft, I was consulting, for 10 years in AVD and Windows 365 were under my umbrella, and I had many conversations with folks trying to deal with COVID and how to quickly and dynamically be able to roll out cloud access to end users, and you show them, ask them, do you have VDI experience? We got one guy. Okay. Have you heard about Windows 365? Let me give a 5-minute demo. Oh yeah, we want that. So that's it really isn't. It's a completely different mindset in management and usability.
I'll add into what Donna was mentioning though. I shared this with my customers, as sort of a like idea, right? Think about Windows 365, like you go to a restaurant, you order a pizza with your lady, you eat it. VDI, if you go to the restaurant, you end up cooking the pizza, you take all the components, for your lady, right? That's the main difference in between the two. I mean, there's no better or the other. It's just both of them are meant to fit a different use case, right? One is more targeted for multi-session, the other one is more like dedicated approach. Take it out Windows 365 the way that it's being offered as a SaaS base, right? Think of Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, all those that you assign a license and service gets provision, same thing as with Cloud PC. It is exactly the same way, no different.
And the pizza pays better when somebody else makes it for you as well.
All right.
So
Absolutely.
let's wrap this up. This was great. So really great dynamics between engineering, feature PMs, as well as the field. So we would like to see you coming back at some point. And thank you as well for watching. And just before I close off, there's an Windows 365 Accelerator event coming up tomorrow as well. So if you go to windowsinthecloud.com, you will see the invitation page for our next episode as well. But if you want to see the Accelerator event, you can find it on aka.ms/Windows365/Accelerator and find it over there as well. It's a free event coming up tomorrow with myself, Scott Manchester, and Jeremy Chapman. So please, and I hope to see you there as well. So thank you for watching, and hope to see you at the next AMA. So have a great day. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.